My name's Richard Larson. I'm a 1967 graduate of Argyle High School. And when I graduated, not sure where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, felt that maybe the service was a good thing to do, because back in those days, if you didn't enlist and you didn't go to college, you're probably going to get drafted. And I knew if I got drafted, I was going to places I didn't want to go. So I decided to make my own decision. And I'd rather have, I didn't want to go out in the jungle. I didn't want to be one of those guys pounding the ground. So let me have a hot meal, a rack, and a warm place to sleep. So I joined the Navy. And at the time I thought it was going to be a 4-year tour duty. I was going to get out and take advantage of the GI Bill and come back and go to school. What I was going to do, I had no idea then.
How long after high school was it that you went into the Navy, that you enlisted?
4 months. I graduated in June of '67, and I came in October of 1967. So what's that, 4 months?
Okay.
Yeah. I ended up going to San Diego boot camp. The recruiters asked me where I wanted to go. They gave me two choices: Great Lakes or San Diego. I didn't have to think too long about that. So I went to San Diego, and
they gave you a choice?
They did at the time, honestly.
Really?
Yeah. He said, "Where do you want to go?" So San Diego, you know, originally we were from California, so I thought that'd be a nice place to go. But the year that I went to San Diego for boot camp, I think November of that year, they actually had a snowstorm in San Diego. A dusting of snow, which they had not seen in I don't know how long it was. So it followed me from here to there. And when I came in, I was not sure really what I wanted to do. The only thing I knew about the Navy was the war movies I used to see on TV, but I always remember the sonar man. Everybody knows what sonar is. You do that pinging, trying to find that submarine or that ship. I said, yeah, I want to be one of those guys. So I started out as a sonar man.
Did you have the test for that or anything? Or?
Well, when I first enlisted, they gave you that basic battery test, and they said I could do anything I wanted to do. And I said, well, I want to be a sonar man. And they said, okay. At that time, I guess you could probably do anything you wanted to do. And so I graduated boot camp. In fact, while I was in boot camp, they asked for volunteers, not volunteers. Anybody had any musical abilities? And a few of us raised our hands and said, yeah, I used to be a drummer. And in boot camp in San Diego, maybe in Great Lakes too, they had a drum and bugle corps. That if you had the skills and you could pass the audition, you could be in the drum and bugle corps. So I did. And what that did, that kept me from doing the last 4 weeks of the regular boot camp, where you had to do all those other things, march, this, that, and the other. So I got to play drums in a bugle corps for the last 4 weeks. We got to go on tours. We went down to Los Angeles for the Christmas parade one day, and other things like that. So I didn't have to do the KP and all that other kind of stuff.
But explain what 1 day of basic training was like for you. An average day.
I hate to say this, but in the Navy it wasn't that tough. It really wasn't. You get up in the morning, the reveille, you go to shower, come back out, and all I can remember basically is just march. You march everywhere. And then they take you to a class here, and you have to learn about basic seamanship, how to tie knots. We had a fake ship in San Diego. It was a mock-up of what a destroyer would look like. So you had the different levels, and they teach you what a compartment was and what how you follow a compartment from the beginning to the back of the ship. Stuff that I can't remember because I was really not much.
Do you have a lot of fire drills and stuff like that?
In boot camp?
Well, as far as on ship, they teach you how to fight fires.
You say ship now. I didn't do a lot of time on ships there, buddy.
Yeah, I know. But during training, did you do a lot of? I know a lot of people did a lot of fire drilling.
I don't remember it, honestly.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No, I just remember that in San Diego, the training center was right here. And on the opposite side of this fence, in fact, my barracks was right next to this fence that separated us from the Marine Corps recruit depot on the other side. And so when we get done with our day, we had our chow, we had to come back, and we had a couple hours or an hour or so to relax. And we would look on the other side of this fence, and we would see the Marine Corps recruits doing what they did. They were moving piles of dirt from here to there. And when they got done moving it over there, the drill sergeant says, well, now we got to take it back over there. And we said this, I'm glad I'm not over there. And that's why I joined the Navy. I didn't want to be one of those guys. I wanted to have a semi-comfortable environment. I could have gone into the Air Force, but I was looking Air Force, Navy, and I liked the Navy uniform better than I did the Air Force. So, the Cracker Jacks.
What did your parents, what did Mom and your dad think of it?
They were fine with it. They were supportive. Coming from a large family, there was 5 of us. And like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have the money to go to college at the time, but I knew that the services provided you a GI Bill. And I figured, you know, after 4 years, I could probably figure out what I wanted to do. So I said, let's go in that direction, and I did. Anyway, Sonarman. So out of boot camp, went to my basic, they call it basic electronics school, which anybody that was doing the technical.
That's your advanced training now?
That was the basic training.
Okay.
The first one was B&E, basic electronics training. And for anybody who's going to go into a technical rating, you had to start there. From there, I went to Sonar A School. And Sonar A School was again in San Diego. And I got almost done with Sonar A School, and we had a chief. It was Chief West, I'll never forget his name. Chief West, back in the day, the chiefs dressed in a dress khaki uniform. They don't have that anymore. I always thought it was really kind of neat. But Chief West was one of these hell and damn and shit kind of guys. I mean, everything that he talked about it proceeded one of those. He came in towards the end of our class, had maybe a week to go. He said, all right guys, I need a volunteer. I need volunteers. And we've not been in a long time, but we've been long enough to know that, you know, volunteering can be dangerous. So he said, all right, Chief, you got to give us a little bit more information. What are you wanting? He said, he says, all right, all I can tell you is it'll be permanent shore duty. And I was like that. I got my hand up in the air as fast as I could because I knew a shoreman was going to spend his 4 years on a ship. What it turned out to be, he said, it's a little Jacques Cousteau kind of stuff, oceanography. He said that's all he knew about it. Oh man, that sounds good to me. So they shipped me from San Diego after I volunteered, me and a few others, all the way to Key West, Florida.
Oh, and, darn.
Yeah, oh darn. On the way to Key West, I got to go back home, of course, on leave. And we got to Key West, and what I found out that is oceanography, Jacques Cousteau stuff, was that we were going to be sonarmen, but we were going to do passive acoustic sonar. Now, a lot of you probably know what sonar is. They ping, and you can find the ship out here, you can find the submarine, how far away it is. But passive acoustic sonar is where you actually listen for the noise these ships make. And all ships, whether it's submarine, a surface ship, or even aircraft, make mechanical noises. When it hits the water, it goes down into what we call the oh gosh, Keith, I'm getting old now. The deep sound channel axis, I think it is. But sound and water will go down to a point where then it'll start coming back up again. And it goes like this, down in the ocean. And it gets in this area, this layer down here, where sound will travel a long way, longer than most people can understand. But that sound, eventually, if we have the equipment like we do, we have, it's called hydrophones, all right? We have an array laid down in the ocean basins, the Navy does all over the world. And these arrays, there's 40 hydrophones in an array, and what that means is these are mechanical systems that can actually hear the mechanical noise coming towards you, and they can display it in a frequency basis. It was 0 to 150 hertz back in the day. And these mechanical systems on submarines, and basically that's what we were looking for, will give you a different frequency for the different kind of equipment on the ship that it is. So what we would do, instead of listening, we'd be watching. And there's certain ships that would give you certain, oh God, I'm going stupid here, I'm getting so old.
Don't worry about it.
All right, but anyway, we could see, looking at this logogram from left to right. In fact, if you're interested, you go online, look up SOSUS, S-O-S-U-S, Sound surveillance system. That's what I was part of. And a LOFARgram. The LOFARgram, again, is what we looked at, and you can see that online. And you'll see all these lines, all those squiggly lines on that. We were able to differentiate all those lines and determine whether it was a submarine, a surface ship, and if it was a submarine, what kind of submarine, and what nationality. And at the time, of course, it was the Cold War, and we were looking for Soviet submarines. And we knew at the time that all submarines, especially the Soviet submarines, were deployed at different parts of the world. And we knew the areas that they would patrol. And that's where we laid all these hydrophones. And so we knew when they'd come on station.
So you're back in Key West, and you got these hydrophones out there, and you're watching them is what you're doing?
Well, back in Key West, I'm learning how to do the job. They're teaching me how to do the job. And what I found out when I was out there, that we have these, what we call naval facilities all around the world, where we had laid hydrophones out in different parts of the world. Hydrophones, an array. An array is 40 hydrophones, 1,814 feet long. But it's at the end of a cable, about a 3.5-inch cable, extended from these shore facilities way out there. So that information was drawn in from the hydrophone arrays back to shore. And at the facility we had 40 LOFARgrams consisted a display. And if we were in an area where we had 3 hydrophones, of course we had 3 banks of 40 displays. And we would walk those displays and we would be able to see all that information. And our job, of course, was to detect and transmit that information to the fleet so they could prosecute. And this was a 24/7 job, 365 days a year. And it was an operational rate. There's a lot of non-operational rates in all the services where you do static things, but there's a few of us that are 24/7, 365 days a year, and that's what I did.
So did you work, what was your shift?
8 hours.
8 hours, 7 days a week?
No, well, we had you do a 2, 2, and 80. That's 2 days of day shifts, 2 days of E shifts, and 2 days of mid shift. And the day shift was 7 to 3. The E shift was 3 to 11, and then the mid shift was 11 to 7. So we do 2 of one, 8 hours off. 2 of the other, 8 hours off. 2 of the last one, then you get 3 days off. 2, 2, 2, and 80. And there's other structures of that kind of watch section, of watch bill. I don't know. I enjoyed it. Again, it was being operational. I felt when I walked on station, you know, I thought I was doing a very important job. It was exciting because I got to see what I detected sent to the fleet, and the fleet would send the ships, the aircraft, whatever was necessary to stay on top of these submarines. Now they didn't know we were there. This was 1967, and I retired in 1993, but 67 to 79, I was involved in what I just talked about. From 79 on, I became an administrator. I got involved in training and so forth.
So how long were you in Key West?
Oh, that was just weeks, Keith.
Pardon?
About an 8-week course.
8-week course,
Yeah.
So 8 weeks, and then you went to
Guam.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
That was another nice thing. I joined a service now. These naval facilities are in wonderful places. They were in Barbados, San Remy, Puerto Rico, Eleuthera, Bermuda.
These are all places you went?
No, these are the places I could have gone to.
Could have gone.
I never got there. And that's on the East Coast. On the West Coast, we had places in Point Sur, California, Centerville Beach, California, Coos Bay, Oregon, Pacific Beach, Washington. And on both coasts, that's where we first started. But instead of those nice locations, they sent me to Guam. That was my first duty station. And it was pre-commissioning. So the NAFAC had just been completed, and they sent a bunch of us newbies out there with all of the experienced people that were on board as well. And for the first 3 months before we actually became operational, they used all of the seamen to do all that grunt work. We were out there in Guam. We were at Retidian Point, and that's the northern part of the island. And up there is also the Air Force Base, and I can't remember the name of the Air Force Base in Guam. But Retidian Point was a very exclusive part of the island, and it was a 400-foot drive from the top of that cliff down to the beach area where the NAVFAC was. So as an 18-year-old kid, I'm on this tropical island out there. It was very, very interesting.
How'd you get to Guam? Did you fly?
Yeah. Back in the day when they put all of us troops on...
Commercial?
No, it was the
Air Force?
Contracted airlines. Contracted. You know, we didn't have what we call traditional airlines, but the people that, the contracted airlines, they put all of us on there, flew us out to Guam. And it was from Travis Air Force Base to Hawaii to Guam. And we got off the airplane, of course, and there's, I remember there was maybe 8 of us from that same school going to the same spot. And got off the airplane in our whites, and tropical whites, and oh my God, it was hot. Oh, it was hot, terrible.
A little humid too?
Very humid, yeah. And Denny Simmons, second class petty officer, Denny Simmons, met us. And he's one of these guys that thought he knew everything. He's a second class REI. I know more than you guys do, so listen to me. And he got us together, put us on the bus, took us back, and he yacked about what we're going to do and not going to do that stuff.
So he's an E2?
E5.
E5?
He was
Okay.
E5, yeah. It was an interesting tour, dude. We had a lot of fun out there.
How long were you there?
2 years. And I got there in '68 and left in the end of '69.
How was the food?
Barracks, no, it was typical galley food. Not bad, nothing.
Good? Not good? Not bad?
I thought it was all right, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice breakfast. We had the eggs, the bacon, sausages, the pancakes, whatever you want like that. And not a lot of healthy stuff back in those days. They put calories on you. They wanted to keep you alive. So, yeah, I liked it.
So,
I'll
describe
tell you an interesting story. When I was on Guam from '68 to '70, I left that, and I think a year or two after that in '72, they found on Guam a surviving Japanese soldier.
Really?
Absolutely, yeah, the last surviving Japanese soldier from World War II.
He was hid out, or?
He hid out all that time. He was there while I was out there, but they found him in '72. All the time, he knew that the war was over, but he was afraid to expose himself for fear of what might happen to him. He lived in the jungle, stole stuff, lived off the land, all that stuff. But if you look at it, he was found in, I think, '71, '72. And you know what the Japanese did for him when they brought him back? They gave him pay in the rear, and at the time I think it was just several $100s, American money. But yeah, we had an actual live Japanese soldier living on the island.
Oh, that's something, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I remember hearing that too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, from there we went to, I went to Hawaii. Like I said, we have all these NAVFACs all over the world right now. We had to report our information to a main evaluation center. There was one on the East Coast and one on the West Coast. And in Hawaii it was called Com Ocean CISPAC. So that was our headquarters on that coast, and I got stationed there. And that would have been my last duty station in that 4-year enlistment if I would have got out. But I had a girlfriend, and we communicated back and forth, and I thought, well, you know, it'd be fun if before I got out, you know.
You want to say your girlfriend's name, or?
Yeah, Suzanne, my wife, Susie.
She was a Riopel, right?
Susie Riopel from Warren, Minnesota, yeah. And I met her after boot camp, came back on boot camp leave, and I do know how, but I won't tell you how I met her, but it was, she didn't like me much at the beginning, to be honest with you. But I kind of grew on her. I don't know. Anyway, I was in Hawaii, and I said, let's get married now, because we knew we were going to get married. Why don't you come out to Hawaii? We'll get married now, and you can spend the last year in Hawaii and have a little fun before we go back home. And I got to go to school, and we have to work and stuff like that. So she agreed. She came out. We got married in Hawaii, in a little chapel on Ford Island, Hawaii. one of those old World War II buildings from way back when. And that chapel, of course, has been leveled now. And you know what they have where we got married now? It's the parking lot of the USS Missouri battleship.
Really?
Yeah, where we got married is now a parking lot.
It's now a parking lot.
It is now a parking lot
Okay.
on Fort Island, Hawaii. So she came out and we got married and we thought we'd go ahead and get out after that 4 years, but decided that maybe we need to have our family now, and so I re-enlisted. And
For how long?
at that time it was 6 years, I guess. So
Okay.
it was kind of a commitment. So at that 4 year point, if you re-enlisted going to 6 more years, that you're at the 10-year point. So I kind of knew at the time that if I did that, I'm not going to be getting out. That's going to be a career. We're going to move on from there. Susie was not real happy about it.
Did you have a signing bonus or anything?
$10,000 to today. Yeah.
You did, huh?
Back then, that was 1970, I guess it was, yeah. So $10,000 bonus, which was a lot of money back then. Now it's not a lot. Again, I told you I was in a I guess I didn't. Being an OT, unfortunately, I didn't say that. Soderman became an OT, Ocean Systems Technician, and they told me at the time I was going to be permanent shore duty. That's why I raised my hand. So when I re-enlisted, where do you think they sent me? On a ship.
They sent you on a ship?
They put me on a ship. It was a SURTAS ship at the time, or TAS ship. Towed array surveillance system. So what we had on the ocean basins all around the world, now they made portable. So they put it on a cable that we throw off the back end of a ship, and you can tow it and do the same thing we were doing on the bottom of the ocean, but not the same distances.
Oh, I didn't know you were on a ship. Okay.
Well, I was on not just one, the other part of my career, but 2.5 years I was on the USS Albert David FF-1050, and we had this towed array system that we would drag wherever we went. And we would go to those areas where we knew the submarines used to operate, and we would try to be on location detection systems as opposed to the ones way down there. So you could move that detection systems wherever you wanted. 2.5 years, and I'll tell you, that was really the worst part of my career. Yeah.
Being on a ship?
Yeah, I had 26 years service, and I enjoyed almost all of it, but that 2.5 years was not what I really enjoyed so much.
So how long were you out at a time?
6 months at that time. We never deployed more than 6 months back in those days. Now these poor kids go out 9 months, sometimes up to a year, and then they get a turnaround of 3 months and they're back out again. We didn't have that back in those days.
So you were out 6 months, come back, how long?
About 6 months.
So every
Six and
half a year both places.
6 and 6, yeah. So
How did Susie like that? You being gone 6 months?
That was tough. It was really hard. We had Nicole. She was a baby. We just had her when we got the orders to the ship, and I came home and told her about that. And we both cried. That's not what we really wanted to do, but it's what we had to do. And so from Hawaii, we went to Long Beach. No, let's step back. Hawaii. They sent me all the way to Maryland, Shadyside, Maryland, for a factory school to learn how to operate the TAS system.
The who?
TAS, towed array surveillance system.
Okay.
So they sent me there for school for like 8 weeks, and when that school was done, they sent me back to Long Beach, and that's where the ship was. When the ship came back off deployment, as I got there, and then within just a couple of months, they decided they were going to relocate the ship from Long Beach to San Diego. So now we had to go from Long Beach to San Diego and find a place to live. So
how long were you in Long Beach? Not very long, or?
I think 6 months.
6 months.
That's about it, yeah. I think we were in dry dock. The dry dock for 6 months to put all the systems on the back of the ship. And then they decided, well, we're going to relocate the ship down to San Diego. So I had to go down there and find a place for us to stay, and I brought my family down there. But again, it was a tough 2.5 years. You know, I had a wife and a baby. I did not like being on a ship, I found out. I joined the Navy, found out I didn't like being on the ship so much. So after that...
Did you get seasick or anything? Or?
No, I was never seasick. I just didn't like the time away.
Right.
Yeah.
So you were in San Diego, they pack you all up and
Oh, yeah.
they come and pack a trailer up
Yeah.
and all your belongings and
That's one of the benefits of the Navy. If you got to be relocated, you get new orders, they'll move you, your family, your belongings everywhere. It's all covered. They come in, they pack you up, take you where you want to go. And they did that at that point in time. I lost my thought, Keith.
I threw you off.
I'm 73 years old.
You're
Yeah.
in San Diego.
I'm lucky I remember what day of the week this is.
You're in San Diego.
I'm in San Diego, okay, right. But I was saying, that was probably the most beneficial tour duty I had. That 2.5 years took me a long way. I did something that very few of my contemporaries did. Because again, we were shortage sailors, NAVFACs all around the world. And just a few of us got the orders to these task ships. Learned a lot.
So for a career move, it was good.
It was terrific. It was the best thing you could do. All these guys in my rating that are competing for advancement are doing the same things. At NAVFACs here, NAVFACs there, NAVFACs here, doing the same things. Well, I was out here doing something that they didn't do. They didn't have that in their resume. I was able to put that in my resume, and that went a long way as I advanced throughout the Navy. So after the ship, we finally got off the ship and we went to Argentia, Newfoundland. While we were on that ship, we had our second child, Kirk. In fact, Kirk was born 2 weeks before I got back from a RIMPAC deployment, and that was my last deployment before I was going to get off the ship. Got off the ship, a baby, 6 months old, a daughter, a 1.5, 2 years old. I had to pick them all up and take them all the way to Argentia, Newfoundland. That's a long way to go. So we got up to Argentia, Newfoundland, and that was one of the more difficult duty stations. I didn't like the ship, but I think my wife did not like Argentia, Newfoundland more than I did not like the ship. That was a very tough time in our marriage. 2 young children, way out there in the middle of nowhere. And Newfoundland's a nice place, but it's wet, foggy, and a rugged environment. So.
What was the name of the place?
Newfoundland, Argentia, Newfoundland. We look back at it now and we kind of laugh about it.
But it wasn't laughable at the time.
No, it wasn't. It really was a gloomy environment. Honestly, Newfoundland, Argentia, Newfoundland, still holds the world record for the most fogged-in days in a row. That's why it's gloomy. It's just very gloomy. So we got through that, and after that we went back to San Diego, to a place called Naval Ocean Systems Center, NOSC, and that was our research and development center. NOSC is a research and development center for the entire Navy. So we do a lot of different things for a lot of different communities in the Navy. But my job at the time was to help develop these underwater listening systems that we have. So I did that for 4 years.
So it's like it's an engineering job, developing it?
Yeah, I wasn't an engineer. I was the technician. I was the one who would go out there and use the equipment. They'd build it. I would go out and I'd use it and give them the information. Is it good, bad, or indifferent? What do we need to do to improve it? And that was the most enjoyable tour duty that we had between her and I, both of us. We enjoyed that time a lot. But it required me to do a lot of travel. I was on research ships, and research ships are different variations and configurations. But we bolt the equipment on the back of a flat deck, take it off and use it for Bermuda, for instance, or in the Mediterranean, and to see how it worked. I was in Bermuda on one of these operations during a hurricane. You remember the Bermuda Triangle? I was in that triangle. That's what we operated out of that.
And you came out alive?
I came out alive, yeah. But the hurricane was moving across, and they take us a little south to stay here. We come up there and went that way, so they keep us out of danger. But still had a lot of this going on. And then.
So you're on this ship. Do a lot of people get seasick while they're out there?
No.
You just get used to it.
Yeah, you get used to it. It was about the size of a tuna boat, and a tuna boat's not that big. But these research ships, the first 1/4 of the boat is the pilot house and all that stuff. And we had about 3/4 of the back deck was flat. So these people, we would bolt our equipment on the back of this deck, our cabins, our winches, our whatever it is.
What's the sleeping quarters like?
Tight.
Tight?
Yeah, tight.
How many people on the ship?
Well, I had, I don't think more than 18. No, not even that. I think, yeah, no more than 18. The crew was, I think, 5, and then all the scientists and the research people added to that. Interesting story. That first ship that I was on out there, no, the second one. This was the one that was going to the Mediterranean. They hired a Cajun cook. I think her name was Mickey, and she was an old grandma from down in the south. And the ship was actually what they used to use out in the Gulf to supply the oil rigs out there. And Mickey was the old cook, and she was a wonderful old lady, a lot of fun. And she had an assistant cook who was a hippie. She was a hippie. Hair, all that kind of stuff. She was a hippie. It was a fun crew. They fixed the most fantastic food. Mickey was a Cajun chef, so I ate good. And we were out there for about 3 months, I guess it was. We ate good. So that's what I had. NOSC, Naval Ocean Systems, NOSC, my most favorite duty station. And not only the ship stuff we did, we would go to other NAVFACs and go out and train these people on new computer programs, new systems, and keep them up to date.
How many years you got in now?
26. Oh, we're there? Oh, no. Oh, gosh. Got there in 79. Left in 81, so joined 67, so it was that 13 years to 18 years, I guess it was. That period, I was in E6 then, made chief while I was there as well.
That's E7?
E7, yeah. And then from there we went to, well, I went to instructor school at that point too. And I think from that point on, the rest of my career was basically in the training environment. So I got away from operations after NOSC, and wherever I went after that, I was involved in training.
So where did you go?
From San Diego, NOC, we went to Centerville Beach, California. Finally got one of those West
Seal
Coast.
Beach?
Centerville Beach, California, near Eureka. So that was one of those West Coast NAVFACs that I finally got stationed to. But we had our B school. Now, our A school was in Key West, and we started a B school, and they moved it to Centerville Beach, California. And that was the secondary school from the basic training on. So I was involved there. I was an instructor, and made E8, made senior chief while I was there. From there,
E8, the pay's getting pretty good now, isn't it?
It's getting better, absolutely better, and more responsibilities, of course. And at that point, they sent me from there to the Senior Enlisted Academy in Newport, Rhode Island. And the Senior Enlisted Academy is for E8s and E9s to teach them more leadership skills and the kind of things that you need to better your career and be more productive and an asset to the Navy, but to the command that you're in. A lot of people don't understand it, but if you make a chief in the Navy, you not only train and take care of the troops that are below you, you train the junior officers as well. Junior officers learn an awful lot from the enlisted community, especially the chiefs and above. So that was part of that Senior Enlisted Academy, to make me a better leader. And so anyway, from there we went to DAMNEC in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Again, it was the same training command that I was at in Centerville. We called it Readiness Training Facility. They relocated that facility to DAMNEC while I was doing my schooling at the Senior Enlisted Academy. And I became the division training chief when I was there. And again, we're just training people. I mean, it's not exciting work.
Training the same stuff that you'd been
training people that were going to do what I did. It's not exciting, but it's important, and I enjoyed it. At that point, you know, I was up for E9, and I made Master Chief. We were there.
So that's the highest rank you can go in an NCO, right?
NCO on all of our services, Navy, Army, Air Force, Marines.
Non-commissioned officer.
E9 as far as you go. And I've learned since then that in these services, if you make E9, only 2% of all of enlisted personnel at any one of these services get the E9. And that's rare. So I felt proud, I felt good of what I had done. It came from, you know, not knowing what I wanted to do when I joined the Navy to what we would call the pinnacle of an enlisted career.
So how many years were you an E9, Master Chief?
Made it, went to ADAC, Alaska. In fact, I left my training command and I became what they call the Command Master Chief. So I got assigned to the Naval Facility, ADAC, Alaska, as the Command Master Chief. And what that is, you're the senior enlisted advisor to the commanding officer. So you work hand in hand. The XO, the CO, Command Master Chief work together to maintain stability, morale, and all that stuff with the entire command.
You were in Alaska?
ADAC, Alaska, yeah.
How long were you there?
2 years.
2 years? Was your family with you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. And none of us ever wanted to get there. That was one of the few commands I really never ever wanted to get stationed at. Because you can imagine ADAC, Alaska, on the end of the Aleutian Islands. There's not a lot to think you could enjoy out there, but it was a very enjoyable 2 years. Yeah, we all got there. We did not think that we were going to like it, but at the end of that 2 years, my wife was even willing to extend for another year if I thought that I wanted to
get to know people. And
it's a small community, 4,000 people on that island, and very safe. Your kids can run that whole area. You don't have to worry about them. None of those drug things, you know, no game things. It was just a big, huge family out there, and not only within the NAVFAC, but the NAVFAC with all the other military facilities out there as well. So it was a great 2 years.
So let me ask you, Richard, the whole time you were in the Navy, were you with anybody you knew?
All the time.
Well, I mean,
well,
say from around this area.
Oh, no.
There's nobody no. around this area.
No, I never saw anybody from this area. But when I joined the Navy and I went through my schools from basic BE&E school, right out in my Sonar A school, there were two people that I remember, Rick Matthews and Willie Glover. Now, Willie Glover didn't become a career sailor, but Willie, he went, and Rick Matthews, we both went, all of us went to Guam. And from Guam to Hawaii, Willie Glover went with me, but Rick Matthews went to Argentia. But Rick and I knew each other all the way up to the end of our careers. So yeah, I've known people that a long
You've met a lot of people and kept relationships.
We were a small community, so wherever you get stationed, you know, the farther up the chain of command you went, you know, we knew each other, and a lot of times we get connected here, there, and everywhere. But yeah, it was a small community, family.
Okay. So you're coming to the end of your career.
Yeah.
And they give you a send-off of any kind?
Everybody does. Whenever you retire, whatever you are, you know, you can be an E5 retiring, an E6 retiring, E9 retiring. You all have a ceremony when you leave. And it's not so much for you, it's for the troops below you. So they can see and understand there is a culmination of a career, and you're recognized for your successes, and that you're hoping that they're going to follow along with that. So yeah, we had a ceremony.
Yeah. I'm going to take you back a little bit. So when you made E7, you were capped, right? They call it capping?
No.
When you make chief?
You don't get capped, you just make chief.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. You're talking about...
I think they call it capping.
No, shit. Initiation.
Initiation.
Chief's initiation, okay, yeah. All right, yeah, we have initiations. That's more unique than the other services. When you advance through the ranks as a chief, you're going from the white hat, little Dixie cup, to the hat.
Yeah.
And you're going from dungarees to khakis. So that's a big separation. And where you would call it third class petty officer, second class, first class petty officer, now you call it chief. And chief is actually, it means something.
Yep.
If you got a little bit of authority.
And where were you initiated at?
San Diego.
San
I was at
Diego.
NOSC.
So you didn't have any family there when you got?
Oh, no, family's not invited. Hell no.
Really?
No. No, that's where you know, they do all kinds of stupid things to you, and you got to smile and say, yeah, I like this. Keep on doing it to me. So it's you know, it was not a lot of fun, but you appreciated it was being done to you because you knew you were taking that next step. So it was all done in fun, although sometimes they can get a little carried away. And
Was there any hazing or anything?
mine was not so bad, I didn't think. Yeah, I didn't get a lot of crap up until, you know, the day of the initiation. Of course, the day of the initiation, you go before all the chiefs in the chiefs community in that area. So they can all throw crap at you and tell you to do this and tell you to do that. Give me the push-ups, you know, run around, dance, give me this drink, whatever. So it's a day of humiliation, but it's important. But it teaches you, you know, you have to be humble in order to lead people. It meant something, and I was glad I did it.
So you get out of the Navy, what do you do now?
Golf. I do. No, I got out of the Navy and then I went to work for a nationwide insurance company as a claims adjuster. At the time, while I was in the Navy, and this is important, I got my college education while I was in the Navy. I came out of the Navy after going in as a high school graduate with a master's degree. I had a master's degree in public administration. I thought I was going to be involved in public administration of different governments, state governments, national government. But what happened, before I actually retired, I got in an accident. Some kid rear-ended me. All right, so I took the car to the insurance company and they did their estimate, and I'm looking around and saying, oh, this, you know, nice professional looking environment. And I watched what they were doing. I said, like, I could do this. And I didn't think much more about that. So then after that, it wasn't 4 weeks later that somebody backed out of the driveway across the street from me and hit my car again. So I had to go back to the insurance company. And then I started asking questions, you know, do you like your job? Well, yeah. And what's the pay structure? And they kind of told me a little bit about that. And I said, what's your working hours? You know, Monday, Friday, 8 to 5. Well, I like that. And all those kinds of things. And I said, well, I thought I could do that. So I decided to contact some insurance companies and see if I could get an interview. And they said, well, you have to test first. So I tested with Nationwide Insurance. I tested with State Farm Insurance and passed the test. And then I got an offer from Nationwide before I actually, well, just after I retired. And I didn't have a job anywhere else. So I said, well, okay, I'll go down and interview with them. So after the interview, I got a job offer. And I said, pay's okay. You know, the working environment sounds good. I said, I'm going to do this. Because I really didn't want to be involved as a contractor in the Navy. When I got out of the Navy, I didn't want to do the Navy anymore. I'm done. And I thought I'd be a public administrator, and that didn't happen. So this was the next step. So joined Nationwide. I was an insurance adjuster. I did adjusting of automobiles for a while, a few years. And then I got involved as being a homeowner adjuster. And I really liked that. And I did that for like 15 years. And I did a lot of catastrophe work. Hurricane Katrina, hurricanes in Florida, hurricanes all over the place. I did a lot of that.
So you traveled to these places?
Yeah, yeah. You see, I mean, that's terrible. You see it on the news. You know what it looks like on the news. It's just devastating when you're on the ground. So we're first responders, trying to help people, and I get there and look at their damages, try to write an estimate and give them a check in their hand to put things back together. And I got a lot of satisfaction out of that, a lot. I 26 in the Navy, 20 years with Nationwide. Retired from Nationwide in 13, I guess it was.
Was there retirement with that too?
Yes.
Very nice.
Yeah, yeah, I got that. And so yeah, like I said, it's been from high school graduation to where we are now. It worked out well. Nobody really knows where your life is going to take you. You just got to follow the paths that are given you. And hopefully you make the right choices. And we did.
Good. Anything you want to add about your military career, Richard?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for all these young people who have no idea what they want to do when they get out of high school, like I didn't. Even if I would have gone to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I needed some time to step away to think about that before I came back to go to college. Well, I went the other direction. It's a great job, and it's a job. You know, you're serving your country, but it's a job. If you really don't know where you're going to go, and you talk to your children and your nieces and your nephews, and if they have no direction, say, give this a thought. You know, we train people, we teach people, we put them in a position where they can actually change their lives. So yeah, it's a good opportunity for anybody, and whatever branch of service you want to go into.
Okay. Anything else you want to add, Richard?
I'm still a Viking fan.
They never disappoint.
I live in Virginia, I'm still a Viking fan.
Well, Richard, I want to thank you for doing this interview and thank you for your service.
Thank you.